G'day, I'm Chris and this is Game Chambers. We are coming at you today with a 2v2 domination battle with myself as the Eastern Riverlords Colour of Cathay and Viper as the Blood Guzzlers for the Ogre Kingdoms against Nurgle and Khorne. So in this battle I have brought Miao Ying, a couple of Jade Lancers, a whole bunch of Jade Warriors and two Iron Hail Gunners in my starting army, and in the reserves we've got the Terracotta Sentinel, the Celestial Dragon Crossbowman and Celestial Dragon Guard, one Crane Gunner, a couple of halberds and a whole bunch of spears. For the Ogre Kingdoms, as the general, we have a Hunter on a Stonehorn, the Man-Eaters with pistols, an Iron Blaster, two Lead Belchers and Smoker Balls, and in reserve he's got a couple of Mornfang Cavalry, a bunch of more Ogre Balls, some Noblars, a couple more Lead Belchers and just a Tyrant, and I believe just with the Snacks ability. The forces of Nurgle, we have the Exalted Great Unclean One, Soul Grinder of Nurgle, the Cultist, I think just the summon, a bunch of Plague Bearers, and the reserves another Soul Grinder, another Cultist, more Plague Bearers, some Spawn Furies, and Pox Riders. The forces of Khorne are led by an Exalted Bloodletter, a couple of Chaos Warriors with shields, a couple of Chaos Warriors with halberds, some Blood Crushers of Khorne, which are a really good armor-piercing anti-infantry unit, Furies, and in reserve some Cultists with the Summon, Spawn, Bloodletters, a bunch of Furies, and more Blood Crushers, and some Flesh Hounds of Khorne. So this was actually played on the ladder. We do like to try and get 2v2 games every now and then. They don't seem to come around very often, so if you enjoy 2v2, it is actually a really fun way to play Domination, so jump on and see how you go. It's much more entertaining than playing by yourself. Anyway, let's get into this game and see how it goes. So we're playing on the Eye in the north. This is traditionally a very good map for artillery because you have line of sight from your deployment zone to pretty much the entire map, to every single capture point. So a lot of Cathay and Ogre players tend to just camp up there, but we, as you saw, I didn't bring any artillery, and we only, for the Ogres, their artillery is fairly mobile.
Evil.
Alright, so let's see. We're on full speed first, so we've got 3 minutes till the capture points open up, and you can see I am doing what I talked about in my guide video. I'm pushing my units towards point 2 for the most part, just to try and lock that down. So this means I want to try and prevent the Nurgle and Khorne forces getting there. While I send just as a token force, which is one Jade Warrior at the moment, over to point 1 to capture it. I do have my Jade Lancers, so this is what I call my force projection units, and their job is going to be to try and prevent the Nurgle and Khorne units coming on. The Iron Blaster here is starting to shoot at the Exalted Great Unclean One. You'll notice that Viper has brought it in really close, and that is because the changes to it basically turned it from a long-range sniping artillery piece to a shotgun. Very nice stream of corruption going down there. You can also see the bombardment going down with the Soul Grinder, doing a bit of damage to the Iron Hail Gunners, which is a good choice because they will do significant damage to these halberds and to the large monsters. So this unit of Jade Lancers is making the ultimate sacrifice. I know that if I don't charge them in, they will get onto point 2 before I can, so if they charge in, Miao Ying drops a Talons of the Night here, and she is going to come in and join that fight, so what she can do to hold them up as well. Opponents, you can see, are sending in Furies to try and tie up our ranged assets. Very nice play. Furies are cheap and very effective at doing just that. The Spearmen are heading towards point 3. I do see the Blood Crushers in the way, and I do not want to engage them. I just want to try and walk around them. It's not a good fight for either of us, really. So the Blood Crushers will take a while to kill us, and we will not kill them. And you see my opponent is actually avoiding the spears as well. Sacrifice of the Knights was not in vain. We have managed to delay them at the edge of the point, and these Jade Warriors are now coming to hold them. And you can see these Knights here have also delayed them from reaching this point. And once again, Jade Warriors are just going to form a bastion here. What I'm going to do is put them into a line formation, just so that they can activate their what's it called, defensive stance ability, and hopefully survive a bit longer against them. Another Pestilent Breath going, Stream of Corruption going down over here. It's not very effective against Ogre units, so it's much more effective against low health targets. You see the Blood Crushers have come in on these Man-Eaters here, and the Iron Hails have rallied and are now trying to do some damage to the Blood Crushers. They don't seem to be firing because the Ogres have got large bodies, so they're a bit obstructed. And do I notice? I don't seem to notice. I should be pulling them around this way so they can actually shoot. Good play by my opponent here. They've pushed forward off the point and tied up 2 units of Peasant Spearmen with 1 Plague Bearer. We are holding here. We have lost this point over here though. There's an artillery coming in. Very nice play. Again, clearing away all those Jade Warriors. So this point is looking like it might be in a little bit of trouble. Cavalry is doing what they can do, but they're pretty tattered and picking up. Now Ying fighting in the middle of these Chaos forces. Where is she? There she is. Doing the anime martial arts while the Talons are on, trying to do as much damage as they can in here. And you can see these blood flushes are coming in Miao Ying. Man, at this point I'm starting to think she's getting a little bit isolated, but she's still doing a good job holding up. Her health's still full. I think I've dropped an Earth Blood on her, maybe to keep her health topped off. She's all doing alright there. So these Ironhails struggle to get line of sight, and somehow get themselves caught up in the Furies. Jade Warriors and Halberds are now also fighting in there. 2 Peasant Spears have reinforced point 1, and some Jade Warriors with shields are now coming in. Point 2 at this point is starting to look like a lost cause. You can see here I've only got 1 Jade Warrior left. The point is fully red. Miao Ying is fully surrounded, and this Exalted Bloodthirst is doing some serious work to us. I mean, she's still a dragon, but at the end of the day, this guy is like twice her size. She can't solo in, especially on foot. She drops some Earth Blood to try and keep herself fighting. Was that an Earth Blood from her, or was that a Fecundity? It was a Fecundity. So to get out of there, she just turns into dragon form, which will move disengage from the ground units, force the Bloodthirster back into the air, and now she'll be able to retreat. Over here you can see the Peasant Spears were broken off by the Plague Bearers and the Fox Riders, and the Mournfangs have come to their aid as another unit of Peasant Spears has snuck around the side and just stopped my opponents from carrying out one and holding it at neutral. So we're sitting quite well here. We've got 1 victory point location apiece, and we've got 5 victory point tickets coming in every turn, every second. How's the centre fight going? So Miao Ying has come over here to try and help these rallying Jade Warriors, but most of the Cathay army here is just in full rout. So there's their leadership is not very high without harmony. So without harmony, they do fall quite readily, and it's quite difficult to keep harmony going against both Nurgle and Khorne with all the Furies in their support and artillery. So I'm not even really trying too hard for harmony, but you can see here these Jade Halberds do have it from these Ironhails, but that's about it. The rest of us are all harmonyless. Is that a word? We'll just make it one. Spears over here fleeing. And this Peasant Spearman is not going to outcap these Plague Bearers because they will lose models at a quicker rate, but they are preventing our opponents from capping point 3. You can see some Jade Lancers are now coming in to support these Mournfangs to see if we can push back these Fox Riders and Plague Bearers. Nurgle units are extremely difficult to shift once they get into position, so that's why this is a little bit concerning, having lost this point, because getting Nurgle and Khorne back off the point is going to be quite a task. So you can see they bottlenecked us here down at the point, exactly what we did to them on the other side. Again, the Exalted Bloodthirster is coming in for another assassination attempt on Miao Ying, pushing her away from the Sentinel Bodyguard, who seems to be stuck in some sort of frozen animation, so he's not wanting to move, he's not wanting to fight. He's just standing there, literally returned to being a statue as Miao Ying gets beaten up by that Bloodthirster, which is not good, but luckily she survives. Now we have the Red Unclean One coming over to have a turn, and the Sentinel finally breaks itself free of its paralysis. It comes in to try and protect Miao Ying. Over on this flank, the Mournfang cavalry are still fighting with the Nurgle forces, and a cultist has moved in to tip that capture weight more fully into Nurgle's favour, and as the Peasant Spearmen lose models, capture weight drops even more, and our opponents will now have a 2 cap on us. So this will now start letting them shift their points in the lead to start overtaking us in points. And over here we did just miss it, but the Bloodthirster goes down to the Sentinel and Miao Ying, who are now continuing to fight the Red Unclean One. Wow, the size difference is massive there. The Sentinel is huge, it looks really cool. All our Jade Warriors swarming through its feet. Miao Ying leading from the front. So he goes off to fight some spawn. So I shift him onto the spawn because the spawn, as they lose models, will actually lose capture weight. Great Unclean One, his capture weight will be the same regardless, and his is only 2. So it's not a huge threat. Again, you can see all these Furies just swarming our back line. So you'll notice that I've stopped bringing in much in the way of ranged assets at all. I did bring in some Crane Gunners, who are now way at the back, and some Ironhail Gunners have rallied, but I have just completely forgotten about them, so hopefully I'll remember at some point. But mostly what I'm bringing in now is just pure melee troops. Bringing in ranged assets. Furies are just so cost effective at dealing with them. It's not worth it. The Sentinel is now fighting all by itself in here. Miao Ying has broken off. Probably shouldn't have sent her in. He's surrounded by halberds and storms. Not where this guy wants to be. Yeah, got a couple of halberds. That's where he is. He is getting some lead belcher fire. Or is that going down over here to save these lead belchers? But then he should soon have a bit of support coming in from that. Now I think I should have brought in some Jade Warriors. No, I haven't brought in any Celestial units yet. We do manage to take back this point over here. So the Mournfang Cavalry actually has infantry capture weight, as do the Ogre Bulls, and not the Tyrant, yes, the Ogre Bulls. So the Jade Lancers adding their capture weight to this with the Mournfang has actually allowed us to take point 3 back, which is good because now we can start getting these points to start catching up. Still fighting at a standstill at this bridge here, and the Sentinel is still fighting in the middle. It's actually doing good work. It's delaying a lot of Khorne forces here, preventing them from coming around to point 1. We have a couple of Blood Crush units in here at full health now. Miao Ying has rallied, bringing in some more Jade Warriors, and there's some more Lead Belchers coming in, so the Belchers will do quite well here. I do retreat a unit there. I'm not sure what that unit was. I did miss it. Miao Ying drops some Talons of the Night in this big blob surrounding the Terracotta Center and gets a nice amount of value in kills there. And there's the Celestial Dragon Guard. I thought they'd come in. So these are the Cathay's elite Halberd infantry, and this is Khorne's elite anti-infantry cavalry. So this is a, not sure who would win this matchup in a vacuum, but we have 2 units of them against 1 unit of Celestial Dragon Guard, and the Celestial Dragon Guard do not have Harmony, so I imagine that the Blood Crushers will win that. But they do have support. They've got a Sentinel right there, they have Miao Ying behind them, they've got an Iron Blaster just here as well, just still probably firing away, yep, still firing away, and Miao Ying providing support from there. Let's have another overarching look at the battlefield. We've now brought in the Celestial Dragon crossbows, who unfortunately have to clear away all these Furies before they can come in, but they need to come in to apply their damage to these Blood Crushers. The Blood Crushers will actually win against pretty much everything we've got, and they'll even do good work against Miao Ying while she's on foot. We're still holding this point over here, not sure how. I think it's just all these cheap spears are still going. We've got the Tyrant and the Ogre Bulls still in here, and the Mournfangs. There's certainly not the Cathay contribution over here, even though technically it says Cathay is the one that owns it. But they're starting to pull ahead a little bit in victory points, but doesn't look like we're going to hold on to this one much. The 2 cultists in the middle are managing to put some good damage onto the Sentinel here, and they're going to likely bring it down. There may also be a little bit of friendly fire here from the Man-Eater pistols and the Lead Belchers. And the Lead Belchers and Man-Eaters are now pouring their fire into the Blood Crushers. Celestial Dragon crossbows should be doing the same. I don't know what I'm doing with them here. Looks like they're going to walk into melee with a cultist. Looks like I'm trying to get them to shoot the Blood Crushers, but I just can't seem to be able to get the range, because their range is a little bit less than the Lead Belchers, so they can't shoot across this ravine. They need to come down inside of it. There's some rally units over here that I haven't noticed, and it looks like we've lost this point here, so the Mournfangs and the Tyrant's still fighting well, but the Mournfangs have been defeated, the Bulls are gone, the Peasants have been pushed out, there's the Bulls there, the Lancers are broken, and now our opponents are capturing this. But in the meantime, we've actually managed to retake the centre. So the Celestial Dragon Guard remnants, these Jade Warriors, you can see are just edging over into the middle of the capture point. These Bulls will shortly be inside, but we are going to make way through there. And this is what makes these Peasant Spears such a cost-effective unit. So these are the elite of the elite heavy shock cavalry that you can bring. And they charge into the front with Peasant Long Spears, and they barely do any damage. That charge defense against all, and being braced really keeps them alive there. And Miao Ying comes in to try and save them. Furies come in on this unit, so you can see the Furies actually seem to do more damage than the Blood Crushers do. Likely because they do this whole wrap around thing here. As our opponents attempt there to push in on point 1, we are creeping away from them here. Starting to get a bit more of a lead in the middle. We're starting to secure it with these Jade Warriors, and I will be moving them. Let's just be a rough location at the moment, but I will be moving them to try and prevent any corner units from getting onto the point. Still forgotten about these units over there. My opponent's brought in another Soul Grinder and completely overrun us at point 3. But we have 2 and 1 back. Miao Ying is still alive in the air, looking around, and I'm bringing in more Jade Warriors and more Jade Halberds. Crane Gunners are still online, still pouring fire into those Blood Crushers. Miao Ying is now coming in to save this Celestial Dragon Crossbowmen from these cultists who are been doing a lot of work. Wouldn't be surprised to see them as quite big too. Look at the size of these guys. They are not your regular humans, are they? Jade Lance is coming in just to try to clear out the Furies. The Furies have been very annoying this game, so they have been tying up our lead belchers, tying up our ranged assets, just constantly a threat and a thorn in our side, which is what you need to be doing with them, and that's what makes it very inefficient for Cathay to bring a whole lot in the realm of ranged assets. So it's very hard to protect them from the Furies, especially with artillery. They'll destroy an artillery straight away. Now we've crossed the point now where we are able to win on a single cap, so we are still throwing in everything that we have to hold on to for as long as possible, because that prevents our opponent from pushing onto 1. If we gave up on 2, moved all of our remaining units to 1, it would be very clear to our opponent that all they have to do is push 1, so they could leave 1 unit and push everything there, and then we run the risk of losing it. So even though we can win on a single cap, once we passed one of the breakpoints, we are still trying to slow down and delay our opponent as much as possible, and even pressure other points. This is just to make sure that your opponent can't go for your final point. You can see I am bringing in more spears, and we are sending the hunter over there. How many units that are spare? You can see here another terracotta sentinel is coming to reinforce. So if for whatever reason we did lose all those, we were going to be able to hold on to 1, but we didn't bring back all of our troops. It's a good game to our opponents there. It's a fun 2v2, a lot going on with it. It's still very tactical. I think at the moment there may be too many units on the battlefield. I think they need to make the army slightly smaller for 2v2, or maybe the fun's a little bit slower, but at any rate it is still an awesome way of playing the mode and great fun. So let's have a look at the damage values. So I am going to do a video on damage values, but I think a little bit too much weight is put into them, but it is fun to have a look. So let's just see how we went. So Miao Ying 2800, there was a lot of good storms of, what do they call it? Talons of the Night, plus she did get to do a little bit of fighting in dragon form, and she survived the whole battle. Cavalry, they got summoned a couple of times, so those values don't tell the whole story. They were essential in us being able to capture the central point 2 at the start of the game. Again, Jade Warriors, these guys are just capture weight. Their job is just to die slowly. Nothing more, nothing less. You can see a lot of the damage values, if you look at them on face value, nothing bar this one unit here technically paid for itself. Let's have a look at the ogres. So the ogres should have done a significant amount of more damage, and you can see they have, because they were ranged. They were able to sit back and shoot while the Cathayans just charged on in and got the bodies on the points, while the ogres did all the killing for the most part. Look at our opponents. Exalted Great Unclean, you normally expect a little bit more out of him damage-wise, but I was trying intentionally not to feed too many units to him. So if you surround him in a blob, that's where he really thrives. Soul Grinder did awesome work, so every single shot's armor piercing, makes a mess out of Jade Warriors, Jade Halberds, Celestial Dragon Guard, anything Cathay can bring. They'll just put great big holes in the unit. And again, so the Plague Bearers are the same as what I was using all of my units for. You don't expect them to actually make value, because their job is just to die slowly. The Corn unit, Exalted Bloodthirster managed to take out Miao Ying. Not take her out, but do significant damage to her, break her, and nearly take her out. And you can see the values for the Furies is actually really high. And that's for a couple of reasons. Like, they do have really high damage outputs, so they will tear apart ranged units very quickly, but they also get re-summoned regularly, so you don't see the number of times they get summoned, which would be nice information to have there. But anyway, that was a 2v2 that we played recently. So if you're not enjoying Domination solo so much, try and grab a mate, jump on, do some 2v2 games. It really unlocks the mode a lot more. You can talk back and forth, tactics and strategy as you go, and yeah, it's a great time. I highly recommend it. So give it a go, and we'll see you in the next video.